Okay, I'd like to call to order council meeting Monday, April 10th, 2017. Opening prayer, Miguel Chavez. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. Let us pray. Dear Lord, we pray that you will create among us leaders, individuals made in your image, who will apply your teachings in their lives and positively impact our families, our workplaces, and our communities. Help us to inspire those with whom we come in contact to share their God-given talents, to do your will, and to find a place in your kingdom where their deepest joy and the world's deepest hungers meet and cry for their special qualities and abilities. Make us leaders, Lord, leaders with strength and courage to follow you, leaders who make your love visible to the world in all our words and actions. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Soretta.
Here.
Fontaine.
Here.
Griffith.
Here.
Kiesling. Here. Peters.
Here.
And Waring.
Oh, sorry, here.
6 present, Mr. President.
Thank you. May I have a motion to excuse member Fultz? So moved.
Second.
Fontaine.
Yes.
Griffith.
Yes.
Kiesling.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
And Soretta.
Yes.
6 yes to excuse Councilman Fultz.
All right, thank you. For your consideration, may I have a motion and a second to approve as presented? Committee of the Whole meeting minutes, March 20th, 17. Special Committee of the Whole meeting minutes, March 13th and April 3rd, 2017. Council meeting minutes, March 13, 2017. Special Council meeting minutes, April 3rd, 2017. Mayor's Court receipts, February 2017. Financial statements, February month-end reports. And the new liquor license for Creamery in North Canton, LLC, doing business as Pav's Creamery, 708 South Main Street, North Canton, Ohio, 44720.
Motion. You have a question? I do. Okay. Motion to accept as presented.
Second.
Griffith.
Yes.
Kiesling.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Soretta.
Yes.
And Fontaine.
Yes.
6 yes to accept the minutes and reports.
Thank you very much. And before we start recognition of visitors, if anyone is here to comment regarding the speed limit reduction on Main Street, it is my intention to ask that that ordinance be tabled tonight for further review, and we'll leave it at that. So if you wish to address council, please step forward, state your name and address.
Chuck Osborne, 307 Fairview Street, Southeast, North Canton, Ohio. Before I start out with my main comments, there was a zoning board of appeals meeting last week. Mrs. Waring, you were not present.
I have told you I was not
We can
appointed
handle, we can
to
talk
that.
about it, we'll address that after the meeting.
Well,
We need to
it's
assign
been consistently
someone.
that the chairman of ordinance and rules goes to ZBA, and chairman of economic development goes to planning commission.
It doesn't say that in the charter.
Your law director, I agree, but that's been the pattern for the last 16 years. By the way, your law director, I guess, had no choice here a few weeks ago at a charter review commission. He did finally concur that shall is a requirement. So I hope he's conveyed that to you. You're repeatedly violating the city's charter. All right.
On what?
I'll disagree with that, just for the record.
Thank you. Thank you.
Please continue.
Cover everybody's backs. That's what it says up here. Okay, last April 3rd, last week here, Mayor Hale talked about the abatement to Northridge Apartments. He said he differed with the interpretation by Mr. Bowles. Well, that's really an understatement. You gave as your reason for the fact that a housing council meeting hasn't been scheduled is that the schools and the developer and their attorneys are trying to work out something that is acceptable to both parties. That is why we haven't set a date for all the appeals that are to be heard before the city's housing council. I have here a letter that I've had since last Thursday. I don't know why your law director hasn't released it to you. I'll give it to the mayor here. You can pass it around. The auditor's office, Ohio State Auditor's Office, has stated that that abatement is illegal. It violates the ordinance. Furthermore, in response to Mayor Held's remarks, you can't negotiate something that was illegal from the beginning. This council, the school board, have a fiduciary responsibility to their constituents. Even if the school board negotiates something, as Mr. Fox likes to use the term ab initio, this was illegal out of the starting gate. So you can't negotiate on something that was illegal from the beginning. So you guys can play your games, negotiate. You can avoid making the city accountable and standing up and ruling it's illegal. But if people don't come to their senses, there will be a lawsuit. I don't care if the schools are willing to get rid of 50% of that money. There will be a lawsuit. They do not have the authority, nor do you have the authority to negotiate away your fiduciary responsibilities. Also last week, Mr. Fox took umbrage with Mr. Tripp's remarks. And again, this is a tax review council meeting. I, along with Mr. Tripp, agree that I heard the law director state that any meeting not held on a Monday night instantly becomes a special council meeting. So Mr. Tripp, you're not alone in hearing that. And now, Mr. Fox last night said not only the days of the week, but I guess the very minute it's supposed to be conducted has to be a special council meeting. Well, last week was the first Monday of the month. You could have saved from having a special committee of the whole by having the meeting first, if that would appease the exact hour and minute that the council of the whole should start. The council of the whole only lasted 10 minutes, and then you had a special council meeting. Why not have that in reverse? Get the council meeting, or the committee of the whole meeting out of the way, and then have your special council meeting. You're totally abusing the definition of a special council meeting. You have turned a special council meeting and conducting regular city business at a special council meeting. Many of you that have been here, Mr. Foltz, I did mention to him the other day, he said, I know, but I'm just trying to go along. Mr. Peters should know, Mrs. Keesing should know. It never functioned that way. Anyway, I'm over my time. I'm surprised everybody isn't jumping up and down.
Thank you, Chuck.
Mr. Held, we need a meeting schedule of the Housing Council. Thank you.
Yes, and we will.
No,
Okay.
it's really not even worth the time.
I was going to comment, but that's okay.
Not even worth the time.
Good evening, Melanie J. Roll. I was going to address the reduction of the speed on Main, and thank you for that comment. I would like to ask if perhaps you as council can ask the chamber to do, which was part of my remarks, to do a survey of the business owners, particularly on that section of Main. I think that was part of the reason why there was opposition. So if that could be done and we could get some kind of numbers on the total number of people that are surveyed and whether they are for or against. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Larry Tripp, 1127 East Maple. I'm going to kind of stay on the same subject I touched on last week regarding special meetings. What I did, I arbitrarily took the years 2010 and 2016 with 2017 thrown in just for comparative purposes. In 2010, there were 29 council meetings, with 7 being labeled as special meetings. Whereas in 2016, there were 23 council meetings, with 6 being labeled as special. Really not much difference there, other than maybe 6 less meetings in 2016 standing out a bit. But what became troubling to me was from the 1st of November to and including last week's meeting, April the 3rd, there have been a total of 10 council meetings, with 6 of them being labeled as special. That's 60%. I don't know if this is some kind of a trend, but you know, that's really uncalled for, 60% special meetings. Ordinance 3313 dated May 28, 2013, I believe is flawed as to the way it has been manipulated to self-serve the personnel of this council and not the needs of the city. In fact, I have of the opinion my remarks and every public speaker remarks before and after me are somewhat tainted because they have not stated they have read and understand council rules of decorum, courtesy, propriety, and recognition of visitors. Council President, Law Director, Chairwoman, Ordinance, Rules and Claims Committee. I don't see a copy of said rules on the podium, but with your indulgence, I'm going to proceed anyway. I've always considered city council members as a legislative body. They pass ordinance which are in fact the law of the city. For example, Ordinance 3313 is the law as to city council meeting procedures. Lowering the speed limit from 35 to 25 miles an hour on certain North Canton city streets become a law. The same would be true of the ordinance where your grass can only be so high, and I could go on. Now, as I said, I consider a council person a lawmaker. And if I said all lawmakers were crooks and criminals, you would probably be very upset, perhaps angry, rightfully so. I know I would. As I watched the video and read the minutes of the February 27, 2017 meeting, one statement thrown out that really caught my eye. This remark came from Council President Peters in his rebuttal to Mrs. Baumann regarding the pay increase of council members, and I quote, "You know, every lawmaker from top down are a bunch of crooks and criminals." As I said, if I were a lawmaker in any capacity, I would be quite upset hearing that remark. At the very least, right now, a member of council should interrupt me, ask for a suspension of rules of council, and propose a resolution to censor that remark. Again, his remark, "You know, every lawmaker from top down are a bunch of crooks and criminals." It's tough for me to see many bright spots with this city council with their manipulation of meetings, attendance at meeting, non-adherence to city charter, twisting of rules such as advisory, shall, and so forth. But at least I think we see a slight bend in the rules now, where the recent addition to what I'm sure Mr. Fox put on the 2017 agendas, North Canton City Council meets every Monday at 7 p.m. in council chambers unless otherwise specified. How many of you knew that was added to the agendas? These are, of course, are only words. What the future brings, consider these words, is the key. Thanks.
Mr. Tripp, that was a flat-out lie.
Pardon?
Flat-out lie.
You want to see the minutes?
Flat-out lie.
Want to see the minutes?
Please have a seat.
Don't approach.
Please have a seat.
Stay back there.
Okay,
Please
I
have
have
a
the minutes, I have the video, it's on the tape.
Please have a seat.
Thank you.
Let's move on.
Yeah, don't even ignore him.
We don't need that. Unbelievable. On to old business. May I have a motion and a second to read by title only the second reading of ordinance number 30-17?
So moved.
Second.
Kiesling,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Waring,
Yes.
Surratt,
Yes.
Fontaine,
Yes.
and Griffith.
Yes.
6 yes to read by title only the second reading of ordinance number 30, 2017, an ordinance declaring that for traffic control purposes only, the portion of Main Street in the city of North Canton, Ohio, from the intersection of Charlotte Street Northwest south to the intersection of Bechtel Street Southeast shall be known as North Canton's Business District, and as a consequence, the maximum speed limit permitted thereon shall be 25 miles per hour.
Thank you. Chairman Fontaine.
So this is the business district that we've been talking about. We passed first reading last week. A lot of conversation with council members, business owners, and it sounds to me like for at this point we should table it and maybe open up a discussion another time once we get more development downtown. A lot of the businesses aren't for it.
Is that a motion to table?
So I make a motion, we table it unless there's more discussion.
Second.
Peters,
Yes.
Waring,
Yes.
Surratt,
Yes.
Fontaine,
Yes.
Griffith,
Yes.
and Kiesling.
Yes.
6 yes to table ordinance 30, 2017.
All right, thank you. May I have a motion and a second to read by title only the second reading of ordinance number 31-17?
So moved.
Second.
Waring,
Yes.
Surratt,
Yes.
Fontaine,
Yes.
Griffith,
Yes.
Kiesling,
Yes.
and Peters.
Yes.
6 yes to read by title only the second reading of ordinance number 31, 2017, an ordinance declaring for traffic control purposes only that because the length of Charlotte Street Northwest within the city of North Canton, Ohio, from its beginning at the intersection of Orchard Avenue Northeast to its merger into Portage Avenue Northwest is significantly less than 1 mile, it is hereby designated not as a thorough highway, but as a street, and therefore shall have a maximum speed limit thereon of 25 miles per hour, RC 4511.21B and 2.
Thank you. Chairman Fontaine.
This is the Hoover District coming across the street, over here on Charlotte. This would be appropriate. This would be our second reading. I move we pass it.
Second.
Surratt,
Yes.
Fontaine,
Yes?
Griffith,
Yes.
Kiesling,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
and Waring.
Yes.
6 yes to adopt the second reading of ordinance 31, 2017.
Okay, may I have a motion and a second to read by title only the second reading of ordinance number 32-17?
So moved.
Second.
Fontaine,
Yes.
Griffith,
Yes.
Kiesling,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Waring,
Yes.
and Surratt.
Yes.
6 yes to read by title only the second reading of ordinance number 32, 2017, an ordinance declaring for traffic control purposes only that because the length of Portage Street Northwest within the city of North Canton, Ohio, from its stop at Charlotte Street Northwest to its stop at Pittsburgh Avenue Northwest is less than 1 mile, that portion of Portage Street Northwest shall thereby designate not as a thorough highway but as a street, and therefore shall have a maximum speed limit thereon of 25 miles per hour, RC 4511.21B and 2.
Thank you. Chairman Fontaine.
Okay, so this is really from Pittsburgh all the way in, Portage, Charlotte. And that's the area that we have all that crazy traffic for the tight area. And this would be the second reading. I move that we pass this second reading.
Second.
Griffith,
Yes.
Kiesling,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Waring,
Yes.
Surratt,
Yes.
Fontaine.
Yes.
6 yes to adopt the second reading of ordinance number 32, 2017.
Thank you. On a new business, may I have a motion and a second to read by title only the first reading of ordinance number 35-17?
So moved.
Second.
Kiesling.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Surratt.
Yes.
Fontaine.
Yes.
Griffith.
Yes.
6 yes to read by title only the first reading of ordinance 35, 2017, and ordinance amending North Canton ordinance number 50, 1977, specifically sections 159.01, 159.02, and 159.03 to reflect the current Ohio Revised Code updates to the North Canton record retention policy and procedures.
Thank you. Chairwoman Ware.
Yes, we talked about this last week, and Pat's been working on this, and just how we retain and keep our records and keeping them specific with the Ohio Revised Code. They have been rather un-up-to-date. Pat, do you want to say anything else?
Thank you, Councilwoman Waring, for the opportunity to address the council. Mr. President, you weren't unavailable to hear my eloquent remarks last week, so I'll be happy to share that with you again. But
I did see them.
then I really need to say anything. It's just part of our document management strategy, and in that we have certain requirements that are expected of us to meet on a regular basis, and this was bringing into current policy what has changed over the last nearly 40 years since we made changes to our ordinances. So we're in line with Ohio Revised Code. This will bring in who's to be on the committee, how they're to meet, and then the other parts of it that you see later in regards to updating the records that we're keeping, making sure that we're in compliance with the new types of records that are available. 40 years ago, social media didn't exist, so there are a lot of things that we need to examine.
Good. Nice job with that, Pat.
Thanks, Pat.
So if no further discussion, I move to put it to its second reading.
Second.
Peters.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Surratt.
Yes.
Fontaine.
Yes.
Griffith.
Yes.
And Kiesling.
Yes.
6 yes to adopt the first reading of ordinance number 35, 2017.
Thank you. Now may I have a motion and a second to read by title only the first reading of ordinance number 36-17?
So moved.
Second.
Waring.
Yes.
Surratt.
Yes.
Folds. Fontaine.
Yes.
Griffith.
Yes.
Kiesling.
Yes.
And Peters.
Yes.
6 yes to read by title only the first reading of ordinance number 36, 2017.
Okay, I wasn't here last week to talk about this, but I did see Tim's summary of that. Does anyone have any further questions for Tim regarding this? Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion and a second to adopt the first reading of ordinance 36-17.
So moved.
Second.
Surratt.
Yes.
Fontaine.
Yes.
Griffith.
Yes.
Kiesling.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
And Waring.
Yes.
6 yes to adopt the first reading of ordinance number 36, 2017.
Thank you. May I have a motion and a second to read by title only the first reading of ordinance number 37-17?
So moved.
Second.
Fontaine.
Yes.
Griffith.
Yes.
Kiesling.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
And Surratt.
Yes.
6 yes to read by title only the first reading of ordinance number 37, 2017, and ordinance amending ordinance number 8, 2017, the 2017 sanitary sewer rehabilitation project in the city of North Canton, increasing the appropriation from not to exceed $400,000 to not to exceed $500,000, and declaring the same to be an emergency.
Thank you, Chairman Griffith.
Rob was kind enough to share with us the fact that last week that we have a project that we took some money from last year, and we're able to add some dollars for this year, and the project is moving along. Anything to add?
No, other than basically what the street department decided to add Greenway Road, southeast to the list of areas to be lined, and hence the extra $100,000 request.
Perfect. Any questions about that? I would move its approval.
Second.
Griffith.
Yes.
Kiesling.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Surratt.
Yes.
Fontaine.
Yes.
Six yes to adopt the first reading of ordinance number 37, 2017.
Thank you. May I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules of council for 3 readings for ordinance number 37-17?
So moved.
Second.
Kiesling.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes?
Surratt.
Yes.
Fontaine.
Yes.
And Griffith.
Yes.
6 yes to suspend the rules of council for 3 readings for ordinance number 37, 2017.
Thank you. And finally, motion and a second to adopt under suspension of the rules ordinance number 37-17.
So moved.
Second.
Peters.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes?
Surratt.
Yes.
Fontaine.
Yes.
And Griffith.
Yes.
And Kiesling.
Yes.
6 yes to adopt under suspension of the rules for ordinance number 37, 2017.
Thank you. Motion and a second to read by title only the first reading of ordinance number 38-17.
So moved.
Second.
Waring.
Yes.
Surratt.
Yes.
Fontaine.
Yes.
Griffith.
Yes.
Kiesling.
Yes.
And Peters.
Yes.
6 yes to read by title only the first reading of ordinance number 38, 2017, and ordinance amending ordinance number 26, 2016, Regional Income Tax Agency, RITA, Regional Council of Governments delegates to omit the names of individuals and appoint the Director of Finance as the city's delegate and the Director of Administration as the alternate delegate.
Thank you. Chairman Griffith.
In this case, again, we had our previous appointment was done individually for the prior finance director. And in this case, we need to update it anyway. And so we will appoint our representative in her capacity as the finance director, as we talked about last week. So, Laura, as long as you're willing to do it, I guess we should have asked you before. Knowing that she's accepted, I would move its approval.
Second.
Surratt.
Yes.
Fontaine.
Yes.
Griffith.
Yes.
Kiesling.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
And Waring.
Yes.
6 yes to adopt the first reading of ordinance number 38, 2017.
Thank you. Reports. Member Fontaine.
Okay, important meeting coming up here real soon. It's the Zipper Ditch meeting, and since the Civic Center, we couldn't get it to be here this time. It'll be in the paper tomorrow with the 360 letters that went out. The actual date, for the record, I passed out some letters. It's going to be Thursday, April 27th at 6 p.m. here in the council chambers. So it's we're going to have Kurt Schuring and a lot of the representatives, Stark Parks, going to bring us up to speed on the progress we're making, which is really, I would recommend a lot of the officials, whoever's free to come. The second thing I wanted to say is it just breaks my heart to hear Tim Fox getting bashed constantly. I know, you guys don't like him, but I'm telling you, the guy is good. He shouldn't even be here today because this is your day off. You were off today, you're off tomorrow, you were off yesterday, and you're here for this meeting. And the thing I don't get is, like, you answer the phone anytime I call, pretty much, 10 o'clock at night to 7:30 in the morning. And even though that you are very rigid in your rules, I think we're making great progress here with making some positive improvements. It's not going to be perfect. Anytime there's change, people are going to be frustrated. So I just say, Tim, in my book, I still love you. And I know everybody, they yell at you. You just hold the line. You're making progress, brother. That's all I have.
Good stuff, Don.
I would agree. And for anyone to infer anything about patriotism with someone who has served in the military for 20 years and is in the 1% of that population, shame on them. So, Tim, we do think you're doing a good job and things on track. Thank you. Mike, you did a great job this week updating us all. I really hope it didn't take you that long, but it really was. I mean, it was just nice to have that interaction and to just hear all the reports from all the different entities. And I know it took it must have, because you wrote it very well and it was very thorough. So thank you very much. Dominic had met with Jim Davis prior, and then we all got an email from Jim to come down and see the facilities. I know a number of us have taken up on that. So thanks to Jim, and I got to see when all the people left, and I saw all the trucks, and they were all clean and nice, and I saw the new stick handles and in the snowmobiles or snow vehicles, trucks, and it was really neat to see that. I hadn't been down there for a while, and we have a lot of salt, and I guess that's good. We didn't even have it distributed this year, so we saved on on an expense there. And Jim did a really nice report. I don't know if you guys had seen it, but it outlined how much it costs the city to salt, per time, the amount of times. And it was surprising to me that we'd even salted 24 times, because when you think about how many times we all shoveled, maybe, 3 times. So it was just a really good meeting, and I appreciate him reaching out to him. And Laura, in that same regard, these snapshots are just really nice to have, and something that's different, and I just appreciate that work. I know they're not always easy to put together, but I appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you.
I agree, that was very helpful, very helpful indeed, and I can't wait to get down to see Jim, so that's all I have.
Member Griffin.
I really want to say a special thank you to Laura about this. We've been talking about what we could do. I think city finances are such a frustrating thing because it's unclear. They're a lot different than the balance sheets of businesses. So even if you've been in business, fund accounting can be very, very different too. So I think our goal as we move forward, and I say our because Laura and I have been working with it, but she's doing all the real work, of course, but is to give people some good fence posts where you can say, hey, you're doing really well here, here's some comparative pieces, and here's why it makes a difference. So I thank Laura for everything that she does, in particular working on this stuff too. So I want to say a couple thank yous. I think the new Price Park sign is fantastic. It's really good, very clear, it's a nice piece. And the 7th Street project seems to be coming along nicely, so really good there. I know there are 2 runs coming up. Our church has our Run to Resurrection on Saturday, which is neat. I appreciate the police and their assistance with that. And then the Viking Victory Run is the 23rd, and that'll be a big event, I'm sure. I know we have is someone going to give a pool update tonight when stuff gets started? I know that's coming pretty soon.
It's in the update, Mike said.
I know Mike said, but I want to, right, so if we don't, then we'll talk about it next week or something like that.
next week.
And then State of the City too, I want to make sure we
Oh, yeah,
worked on that.
Oh, yeah, Dave, what was the date of that?
Yeah,
It was listed.
26th, thank you.
It was.
The state of the city.
Yeah, it was.
It was.
Yeah.
So that's the 26th, and then his meeting's the 27th.
It's way out of a lot of
26 is
activity.
at 6 in the evening for the
6.
State of the City Civic Center.
That's what I've got, Jeff.
Did you say 6 or 6:30? State of the city.
6 is what you told me.
Okay. All right, I got it.
We'll put it on the website.
Do we have that date?
Dan, you all set?
I'm done, yeah.
Mark, Member Shredder?
Only, I just want to tag on to that Price Park sign. I want to make sure that kudos to Brian Hill and Jim Debs. Brian Hill put a lot of work into that too. And it has stayed within our theme and the look of our city. And I know they're moving towards the dogwood sign now too. And it'll be very similar and very cool and classy. So good job with all that. That's all. No other report.
All right, thank you. I wanted to just comment on Don's report. I agree with you and Tim. He's done a great job. He has given the taxpayers a great service.
You're not a kid.
Great service. I don't think the everyday citizen realizes just what they're getting for the money they're spending. It's incredible. Now, I wasn't at last week's meeting, but I did see the video, and I apologize for getting hooked by Larry's nonsense based on what he said last week. I should have known. So I apologize.
They call that sarcasm.
Yeah, I guess. Before I move over to this side of the table here, I wanted to make a few comments regarding meetings, special meetings, and the like. And I've been watching the Charter Review Commission. There's a few members on the Charter Review Commission that are very adamant on putting within the charter a set schedule. There always has been a set schedule. Even with the special meetings that we've had, there's been a set schedule. Second and fourth Monday we meet legislatively, and that's that. With the special meetings, I'm preaching to the choir here, but I'm preaching to the choir out here too, because most of the people here have already formulated an opinion. But the bottom line is, it allows us to be more responsive to legislative requests. If we get a legislative request a day after a committee meeting, if we follow a rigid schedule, we can't talk about that piece for 2 weeks. or we could schedule a special committee meeting later on that week or the following Monday following the council meeting and address it in a timely manner. And instead of government moving at a snail's pace, we can be more responsive. It's as simple as that. That's the bottom line, is giving the taxpayer better value and a more responsive government. That is it. And I won't sway from that, period. I will not sway from that. In regards to the allegations that were made up here, in the conversation I was having with Mary Boffman on the floor regarding, it was the council pay, is that what it was? It was the council pay? I don't know what the minutes say. Quite frankly, I could care less, but those words would never come out of my mouth, that all politicians, top to bottom, are crooks. I may have been, saying, it doesn't matter what it says. It doesn't matter what that says. That's not what I was saying. Yeah, was it? Okay. Yeah. So, the bottom line was, it was in the context of that conversation, and, we've reached the bottom of the barrel when you're watching videos and just picking at every little word. It's embarrassing. And in your comments last week, I didn't see anyone up here call you out on it, but they were absolutely shameful. Shameful. Shame on you. Law Director, reports.
Yes, sir. I was going to touch on special meetings, but I think you just nailed it. It's government being fluid. It's not a bus schedule. Things happen during the week that require that we have meetings. Yes, ma'am.
Well, it just goes to kind of what Pat's doing as well. We're looking at the way we keep records because technology is different. We don't have to wait for the mail. People aren't hand delivering things. They're emailing it to us. They're sending it via our phones. We all have these. It's immediate, and government should respond. Quite honestly, I think other entities should look at how we're doing it and be more flexible. I think one of our Charter Commission members said, listen, you can get online nowadays, and before you couldn't do that, and look and see when meetings are. You can call the council clerk. She can send you emails. We're not waiting for a certified letter anymore. So that's fluidity, that's moving forward, and we really need to keep doing that as a government that wants to be one of those future cities. I mean, this is just what we need to do.
Exactly. Having a special meeting means that you're responding quickly to a demand.
Yeah.
Mr. Osborne had mentioned a letter from the state auditor's office and called the question why I hadn't shown this to public officials. Well, it arrived today. Our mail arrives here at City Hall somewhere between 3, 4, 5 o'clock, depends, but I actually didn't see this until about 6 p.m. when it came for the council meeting. And from what Mr. Osborne had stated, I believe he had stated that the auditor's office in this letter stated that the city had done something incorrectly, perhaps committed a crime regarding the Northridge tax abatement, and actually highlighted a section, and I believe that was the section that he was highlighting and showing that here it is, the auditor's office is saying that you did something wrong. Normally for that type of allegation, and then having read the letter, I might say shame on Mr. Osborne. He completely, 100% misrepresented what's in this letter. But I believe he simply misread it. And I'm not going to fault him for that. He simply misunderstood what is stated. And I believe, because he had highlighted, I'll read that part, and you can take your own analysis of this in context of what he said. The highlighted portion is the essence of the complaint, and that's that a complaint was filed with the state auditor's office regarding the tax exemption for this, the Northridge property. It says the essence of that complaint is that the ordinance went on to specify only 3 provisions of the revised code, section 3735.67, as defining the exemption periods. These 3 provisions do not apply to new residential construction. And the highlighted portion ends there. So I believe he thought this section was critical. And in actuality, if you read it in the context of the sentence that was before it, it's defining what was in the complaint. What he didn't highlight was what is said just after that, which is this argument may have some traction within a context of a civil action to revoke the abatement. However, the broad language cited above provides that a 100% tax abatement is available for new construction. This language will defeat any allegation of intent to defraud within the context of a criminal action against the person filing the application for the tax abatement. So that's actually completely the opposite of what he said, but I believe he simply misinterpreted that. So actually what the auditor's office said based on these allegations was that it reviewed and it doesn't have jurisdiction for this matter, refers it to my office, and according to the auditor's office, the investigation is closed with no findings. So, as I said, I'm not going to fault him for that. I believe he just misread it, but certainly for the record, someone reading this later probably wouldn't want to know that that's not actually what it said. He made plenty of copies, so anyone that wants one.
So that's why I like what you do. You know how to explain it in English.
Thank you. I appreciate that. One other thing that I guess wasn't published widely is a couple weeks ago, the 5th District Court of Appeals ruled on the Hoover South parking lot case. I imagine the reason he hadn't brought it up is because the 5th District ruled in favor of the city. So as far as its decision, it's ruled in favor of the trial court, the Common Pleas Court, Stark County, as well as council, as well as the Planning Commission. So far as the Court of Appeals is concerned, that parking lot will remain as it is. And thank you all for your kind comments. That's all.
Thank you. Director of Finance.
First, a couple of thank yous. Going back to the ordinance regarding changing the title of the clerical and fiscal union to utility specialist. First, I want to thank Tim for his hard work on that, going back and forth with CERB and working with myself and the employees. And a thank you to the employees because they negotiated with us, and you know, hopefully that's the way it should work. Is, you know, in good faith, both sides working together to reorganize the department and make things more efficient. So I really appreciate all the efforts. As far as the financial snapshot that I put in front of you, I'm glad everybody likes that. I appreciate your nice comments. Just to highlight a couple things on there. First box up at the top left, total fund balance. That's total balance of all funds, looking at where we started beginning of the year to where we were at the end of March. You can see there's a pretty significant decrease there. The kind of good news on that is right at the beginning of April, we received our first half property tax settlement, which was about $1.3 million. So that kind of fills that hole for the next several months. The rest of the things on here were things that I kind of keep an eye on, things that I think are interesting. I know government finance is so interesting, but these are the things that I look for. Some of the things that are kind of beyond our control, like the health insurance claims, that's just dependent on how many employees go to the doctor, the dentist, those types of things, and we're doing very well this year so far. Income tax collections, of course, is always a biggie. It's a little hard to analyze right now just because we were self-collecting last year and now we're with RETA, and RETA collections are a month behind because they collect and then they remit to us the next month. So if you look just a straight first quarter to first quarter, it looks like we're running about even. But when I went back and looked at December, January, February of last year, which would be more comparable since they're a month behind, we're actually about $125,000 ahead of where we were last year. So that's great.
That's great.
And that's the trend that we were seeing at the end of last year.
Can you tell if that's because we're collecting more or because incomes are up and we're collecting more that way?
I believe it's because incomes are up, but Rita's going to give us more and more data
that would be interesting
as we
to
go
know.
forward. Yeah, in looking at they send me a report every month of the top 25 taxpayers. And I run that out of our old system and kind of comparing that, it looks like it's because incomes are up. So that's good news. And then the last thing I'd highlight is down at the bottom right, the expense tracking. That's where I had planned to put any departments that were significantly over budget right now as compared to where we should be on appropriations, but I didn't really find any that were significant, so that's good news. I appreciate all our department heads for keeping an eye on things, and anything that was above that target were things that were pretty explainable.
Now they know they're gonna be on a list.
It'll be in red.
No, I did warn them at the last supervisors meeting.
We're not paying for colors.
Checking them out.
And it might be for a good reason. It's okay.
Yeah, sometimes
it's not
there's
bad
good
to be on
reasons.
the list, yeah.
On the love list.
That's it?
That's it.
Director of Administration.
Yeah, just thank you for the kind words on the information. Sometimes on our side of the building, we do it day to day and we forget that, you folks may not know about it, so we want to put it out. We'll do a better job of, getting that information out. The other thing that I'm pretty sure you know of, but I also want to make sure is neither side of the building is road. We all meet all the time. We had a 2-hour meeting today between my office and Laura's. There's no place on earth that Tim can hide that we can't find him. So we meet continually all the time, and everybody, all my managers have direct access to Laura and Tim and that too. So it works very well, I think, on our side of the building. So thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, I have a few things. First off, I do appreciate the council's interest in meeting with the department heads, Jim Davis. I know that Dominic and Mark Soretta already met with them.
I know.
And Stephanie also. Marcia will be meeting with him, and Dan has met with him. I know you've all met with him on a number of different occasions. But particularly, most recently, with the springtime coming up and all those activities, what I've learned over the years is that you've got a lot of analytic personality types that work here in the city government. And if you ask for information, they'll give you, a lot of detailed analytics, which may not always, be able to make sense of without some sort of, explanation. So that's where I think Mike, putting together the review, the summary of what's going on in the city, I thought it was great. I loved it. And I had really positive feedback from all the council members. So, very good job on that. I mean, communication makes all the difference.
Yes.
And then also our council president, all of our council members operate with absolute integrity. That has been my personal experience. Every one of the council members have always been honest and straightforward and truly have a desire to serve the greater good of the city. And I've mentioned this before, even this past weekend, how much do I have trust in our council president? 2 of my 6 kids spent the night over his house last weekend. It started out with 1, and now they keep adding up. So I was like, "Are you sure Mr. Peters is okay with that?" My one daughter said, "Dad, Mr. Peters is just like you." I'm like, "Is that a good thing, or what? How are we referring to this?" So the good thing is, I really appreciate the work that all of you folks do, and the time that you're taking to communicate with Mike Grimes and also our engineer, and Jim Davis, and Pat DiOrio. It makes the world of difference. And going back to the CRA, Mr. Osborne, you brought up the complaint, and I was on the record as stating that in the beginning when Chuck brought it up, that the CRA, that it could not have been approved because it didn't go through city council, it didn't go through the school board, and indeed Chuck was right. And I remember saying, I don't think that you are right, but if you were, that I would try to correct it. And indeed, Chuck, you were right, you did uncover it. And really what it comes down to is a tax abatement. It's been kind of a controversial thing here in the city. It is in many communities, but I'll be supporting a tax abatement for the Hoover District. I'd support a tax abatement for the Hoover District because we want to get that project completed. Yes. The Northridge, I will not support a tax abatement. However, given the ordinance language, it was not clear. And our permit superintendent granted a 100% property tax abatement. It was nearly $750,000 over 12, 13 years. It was a very big property tax abatement. Why wouldn't I support that? Why is it that the council members wouldn't support something like that after speaking with them? It's because we didn't feel that it was necessary to do that. Because when you bring residents in, you're not going to collect that associated income tax, usually 40%, at least in the last study that we did, like 40% of the residents pay income tax. We know when we have a job that 100% of those jobs, those individuals will pay income tax. That's why we really love to bring new jobs to the city, because that's guaranteed income, additional revenue to the city. So when we look at the, with Chuck's complaint, because I'm assuming it didn't say this in the state auditor's letter, but keep in mind that this was approved by Eric Bowles, our permit superintendent, exclusively at his discretion. And then it was submitted to Alan Harold, the Stark County auditor. Alan Harold runs a very, very tight ship. He's a very bright man, understands finance, and his office also accepted and approved it. And so then I believe, Chuck, I'm assuming that it may have been you, but there was a complaint that was filed with the state auditor, their special task force, their special audit task force. And as Tim, our law director, already went over, they concluded, number one, it's not their jurisdiction, but they did state in the letter, this is the first time that I've got a copy of the letter because we didn't get it until this afternoon. But it does say the broad language cited above provides 100% tax abatement is available for new construction, and it says the language will defeat any allegation of intent to defraud within the context of a criminal action against the person filing the application. So in essence, what they're saying is that, yeah, you can look at the ordinance as it's written and it looks good. And then in the end, you know what they suggest? They referred the special audit task force back to our law director to give his conclusion on this matter, which he's already doing. So the reason we're not having the housing council, because I know we have members in the audience that had filed a complaint to the Housing Council. We didn't hold that meeting, and keep in mind, the city did file a decision to make clarification on this with the Housing Council, and we've since withdrawn. Why? Because we know how the language is written, it's not clear, and our goal is to get at least a large portion of the property taxes back. And that's what we're working on. So there's approximately $750,000. And it's our hope that we will get a significant portion of that back by working with the schools, because we know that if we were to go and try to get 100% back, which, as Mr. Osborne brought up, and that was my original intent, to get 100% back. But when you look at the legal system and the possible outcome, we did not think that that was the best route to go. And so we're working on an agreement right now to get a portion, significant portion back, and that's why we haven't held the Housing Council meeting. But we hope that in the next few weeks that'll get resolved, and it'll be, considering a decision that I did not support, I was opposed to when Chuck brought it to our attention. We think that that will be the best outcome that we can get, and then we'll move ahead with that. And so, Chuck, thank you for bringing that up. I mean, it was really your inquiry that brought this to everybody's attention. So I'm glad you did, and we're going to try to make the best out of something that certainly we didn't support. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Engineer.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to touch on Price Park for a second. Our contractor brought some equipment back today. You notice the lake is where the pond has been completely pumped down and just a few feet deep out in the middle. He's going to get to work on the new outlet structure, get that in as part of that project, and also some repairs to the retaining wall around there. And kind of put the pressure on him. We need to get that, and then the sidewalk done, get that all buttoned up by early June for your event.
The fishing
that taken
rodeo?
care of.
Fishing rodeo?
Exactly.
Gotta have water.
Yep.
Gotta have fish.
Yeah, it's gonna take a little bit of time to fill the pond back up, so. But yeah, time to get the fish in there, so we're working on that. And then I kind of feel a little guilty that the first project I brought you, I had to ask for $100,000 more on the sewer lining. So I guess to redeem myself, I'll talk about two that we bid since then. Parkview, we had appropriated, if you recall, $600,000. And we got a great bid. Our low bid, actually awarded it at Border Patrol last week. Central Allied Enterprises was about $453,000, so quite a bit under there. And then our 2017 paving, we opened the bids back on the 17th. We have put together about an $800,000 program. And North Star Asphalt was our low bidder at $655 and change. So again, about 145 under. So
I'm glad you're announcing that when Doug isn't here tonight. Does Parkview, I know we've asked, but does Parkview come with curbs and gutters too?
Parkview has curbs and gutters, and a good portion of it also has a median, a grass median, and sidewalk.
Robert, any new grants? I know that Jim, he enjoyed that process of writing grants. Is that something you also enjoy, or?
Absolutely. And a lot of the same as Parkville's engineer for the last 15, 18 years, a lot of the same sources that Jim used, I used too.
Okay.
So, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
We're gonna, yep. Got a lot of projects now out there that I found grants for.
Okay, great.
We have to do it here as well, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Director of Administrative Services.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to update on a couple items. The electronic management or document management software with the electronic version of everything is starting to unfold. I have to say it's pretty sexy. If you're in the organization of details.
I'm anxious to see it.
What kind of documents are you dealing with?
Digital, baby.
We're also midway through a establishment or writing anyhow of a social media policy. Should be given over to the law director here, we hope soon. One item that I do want to send over to council for discussion is I had hinted about a couple weeks ago on maintenance to this building and the front porch. And I've had an opportunity to talk to some of you, but we have a proposal that could give us some ideas on what the nature of the problems are, how they could be addressed from Coon Restoration. So I want to forward that over. Maybe then when we're all here, to be able to talk about it in depth as to what it is that we see as the problem, what they can do to help us identify a solution to the problem.
Do we have any suggestions for the rusty stuff coming through? Like an epoxy paint?
Yes, Coon is addressing that in this proposal, and they're willing to, if we were to move forward as part of that, to actually give us an opportunity to see what we would, in essence, be paying for if we wanted it. They will do a sizable section of that so that council can view that and decide if that is what you're looking for, the effect that you want to have with this building, and if it is, they'll identify a way forward for that. But they're the experts in it. We've talked to some other people that have suggested that we should seek them out, and in our discussions with them, they feel this is not a difficult project for all the things that they do. This is an easy fix.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk?
Two things. Last Friday, I had my captain's promotional exam, and this week until Thursday, I have sign-ups for the chief's promotional exam, which I've scheduled for Friday, May 5th at 1 p.m. And that's it.
Thank you very much. And for everyone's information, our legislative schedule for the rest of the month, next week is a committee meeting on the 17th. There will be no public speaks. We'll be talking about new legislation or current legislation and putting it on the following week's agenda. To that, the 24th, would be the fourth week of the month, will be our council meeting. We will have public speaks at this meeting for those of you that are interested. For those of you, if 2 weeks is too long, feel free. Call my cell number and leave me a nasty message. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.